politeness, I'd like to just start off this part of the meeting with an introduction. If you could just introduce yourself and a little background, I understand. You'll feel more comfortable amongst us if we know.
Sure, no problem. Sarah Dressel, new HR director over at City Hall. On week 2.5 into the role. Very excited to be a part of the city and working with all of you guys. So yeah, I live in Plover, so I commute here every day. But yeah.
I'm going to hold that against you. Nice place to visit.
Great money.
Yeah. Oh, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. We'll utilize you best we can, so.
Perfect.
It's always been helpful at certain times to be able to work closely with the HR, get the job done, so. You missed out on the 2 most exciting job openings in the last year or 2, but we got through it.
Oh, it's your job.
With all the excitement, excuse me.
I've been on this commission too long, I suppose, but a long time. And I think the last 2 hires are the best we've made.
Yeah.
By far.
Thank you. Thank you.
This has been something that we've been putting off for, I don't know, Lori could tell me for sure, but a long time, because we've had other issues in the last year or 2. And it wasn't necessarily a priority, but it came to light more recently with new people on the commission and not a lot of direction. It's kind of, well, sink or swim, learn, ask questions. And I apologize for that. I mean, hopefully we're providing as much information as you both needed being new on the commission. But, and then I'm always open to questions that you may have, and the rest of us as well, I'm sure. It's a tough job to learn. They write books about it. We've all got the manual. They have training for it to be a commissioner, but there's no real book written on how to be a police and fire commissioner in the city of Marshfield. So the 3 things that we have on our agenda here include a mission statement, which can always be tweaked. And there's basically job descriptions for each position on the commission and for a commissioner at large. Somebody that's not necessarily an officer at the time, but something that can be expected of any police and fire commissioner in the city. So I've had these distributed to everybody a couple times now in anticipation of adding it to a regular agenda, but I decided it's probably best we just take this separate, call it a little mini feel-good meeting and be able to discuss some of this stuff. I made notes on several of the things, maybe over a period of time, or maybe it's a combination of things. Time changes, experiences make us change. This last year or 2 as a commissioner certainly was unique, and it brings up questions as far as responsibilities and things for each position in the commission that I think we can tweak, and certainly the mission statement itself can be fine-tuned. It's not something that we necessarily have to all agree on. It's a good educational process, being especially that we have 2 new department heads, that they can see at a glance what our responsibilities are and maybe what their responsibilities to us are. I mean, we can all go back to the state statutes. It defines what our responsibilities are. We all know that we're allowed exceptions by other state statutes to meet in closed session for personnel reasons or for negotiating purposes. So, you know, there's things that aren't going to be defined in here, but that we know that we have the power to take advantage of, and other departments as well for personnel reasons and for negotiating purposes. With that being said, it could just be an open discussion. I don't anticipate any action being taken on anything unless we just tweak it as we go. If we feel that there's a need to, and make comments as you feel necessary. I did take exception to some of the job duties as being, I've been on the commission from 78 to 86. No, 82 to 86. I was on from 92 to 94. And I've been on again now since 2010. Like Andy said, maybe it's time not to be on here, but on the other hand, experience is helpful. I used to hate the guy that would say, well, for history's sake, back in 82, we did this. Here I am. You gotta live with it. But I think that experience is helpful. And like I said, any chance I can pass on ideas or answer any questions for newer commissioners that can come on, and the chiefs, I'm more than happy to do that. So it isn't complicated. We serve a purpose, and I'm sure we all take it seriously. So again, this would be a kind of a fine tuning kind of thing. So we can start off with roll call, obviously.
Okay. Keo?
Here.
Pinker?
Yes.
Myers?
Here.
Steingraber?
Yes.
Me.
Yes, okay, we're all present. We can start off with the mission statement, and I'll just start off being that, to read it because it's simple, to promote the general safety and protective services of the citizens of Marshfield by making policy and managerial decisions for the police and fire departments, providing direction and support to the departments through the chiefs, acting as an interface between the departments and other groups and individuals, and fulfilling other legal responsibilities of the commission. I'll start off by saying, point number 3, interface. It makes it simpler to just say as a conduit between the departments of the city government and with other groups or individuals. So, I mean, if we were to fine tune it, that would be one suggestion I'd have. It just makes it cleaner, and again, it goes back to whoever put this group of ideas together. If that's the way they wanted it, and that's the way the commission felt about it. Or did somebody sit down, I don't know, or did somebody sit down and take this on by themselves to make it clear for everybody? And then there's the other one, fulfilling our legal obligations of the commission as prescribed by the Wisconsin state statutes. That kind of defines it a little bit more. We keep referring to our roles and responsibilities according to state statutes. So that would define that. If anybody's got some ideas other than that, I don't know.
The first point, making policy and managerial decisions. I mean, we do a lot of approval of decisions made by the chief. Is that more correct, or, I mean, because to me it seems like our job is to put the chiefs in place and let the chief, say, yep, you're doing a good job, or what the heck, when something goes bad. That's the short, quick, dirty version. I mean,
Well, we approve policies and procedures that most times come as a recommendation from the chiefs. But it's our responsibility to actually set policy and procedures and approve the procedures in the department. So I don't know if that answered your question or not. But.
well, no, I understand the process. I'm just saying, I think the words are incorrect, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Well, let me, what we do and what we can't, and what we're authorized to do in this instance, I think, are different. We have the responsibility to manage the police and fire departments. manage and administer. That's statute language. And that puts the two chiefs clearly, I was a dean up at the university and I had to follow procedures of the system and the state and rules and all that stuff. But ultimately, I decided. Now, I had department heads who decided how to deal with their stuff. I didn't want to, if I wanted their job, I would have applied for it. I used to tell people that fairly often. But I had the responsibility. If stuff rolled downhill, it was going to come to me. It wasn't going to come to anybody else. And we're sort of in the position of being at the top of the hill for the two departments. But I'd like a mission statement, and having been through this before, I would like a mission statement to start a little differently. I think a mission statement should begin by saying what it is you are. And in the case of the Police and Fire Commission, it is a group or a committee or a council or a commission of volunteers who are responsible for representing the interests of the citizens of Marshfield in matters concerning the police and fire department. I think it's real important to say that the citizens of Marshfield are our boss. That's what we're supposed to do.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah. I wrote a line like that for something, and I looked for it last night and I couldn't find it, but it was close to that. And when I wrote it, I liked it because I thought it said what I wanted it to say. And then the commission accomplishes or meets its responsibilities by, and then, you can talk about, well, as the statute says, there are 6 items under commission authority, and then there are 4 items under optional powers. And somehow or another, those belong in, if not a mission statement, a statement of responsibility or a statement of purpose, whatever IBM is using now. You get that?
Okay, Andy, on page 10.
6 and 7.
6 and 7, okay.
See, IBM now makes its living doing this kind of thing for businesses all over the world. And as they make up words, they sort of, like a virus, spread. What are the takeaways? I was at least 60 before I heard the word takeaway, but it's an IBM word. I think a mission statement really has to go back to the statute because that's where our responsibilities are defined. And we're not meeting them. Promotion of subordinates, we have to approve those, and we generally do. Approve and control the competitive examinations used to judge suitability for appointments of subordinates. I've never seen the exams, and I certainly don't have any control.
Yeah, we generally try to invite at least a member of the commission for promotional exam.
Yeah, but you see, it should be more than that according to this. Approve and control. Those are strong words. Approve each list of individuals determined to be eligible for appointment. I've never seen a list. According to the statute, we should be doing that. suspend the chief of a department or subordinates pending filing and hearing of charges. Now, for a lot of reasons, we had opportunity to do that recently, and we decided not to do that. And then initiate charges, we don't want to get into that right now. And then if you look at powers of the optional powers, organize and supervise the departments, the police and fire departments.
Yeah,
Organize.
what does that mean? That needs clarity, because that's not really clear in the statutes what the heck that means.
Well, if you look up the words organize and supervise, it helps define it. Because I did that last night. Whenever I get to a thing like this, I look up the meaning of the word. Adopt rules governing the control and management of the department. Obviously, our responsibility is to control and manage the departments. And I think we're, by tradition, a step farther away from that than I get out of the statute. Connect for and purchase, contract for and purchase all necessary apparatus and supplies for the use of departments under control, excluding erection and control of the department's station buildings. And I think this is interesting. The statute says it's our responsibility to contract and purchase all apparatus. We don't do that. The city does that. Now, there are a couple of police and fire commissions who have optional powers who do that. It's not the city. Now, how they deal with the money side, I have no idea. But I think Lake Geneva has their own HR person, and they keep their own books, and they contract. Now, how they get the money, they don't get it's not their money, they get the money from the city of Lake Geneva somehow. But how that works, I have no idea.
May I interrupt you just for a second?
Yeah.
Relative to that item, and one of these pages references the Kissinger memo.
Yeah.
Now, to the best of my recollection, Attorney Kissinger, who was attorney for the city, had defined that purchasing contracting right. I had a copy of that memo once, and I know I do not have it anymore.
I probably do, and I have the Stalver one, and I have the Wolfgram one, and I have, every time somebody gets an itch, they ask the city attorney for an opinion. And then the city attorney, I still go by the one that Stalver did, because he had 30 years experience as a city attorney when he wrote it. That was at a time when there was actually it was at the time that there was a referendum in place to do away with the powers of the Police and Fire Commission, because the firefighters weren't happy with some rulings that took place in regards to the POC program, pay on call program. So Stalver wrote a letter, and I still have that framed almost, that's the way things ought to be, but.
Could you share those with all of us?
Yep. But every time you have a different personality in there, you have a different.
Oh, yeah, I've read the Kissinger one, I don't have it.
Is that the one that was generated when the PD wanted to purchase a fax machine and the council was opposed to it? And the opinion was the money's there, the PD can spend it. The commission can spend it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's the one.
Wow. I think it's my name tax machine.
Stay with the duck.
Basically, what the attorney said is once the money is allocated to the department,
Right.
The council can determine how it's spent regardless of what was in the budget. And the argument then in reverse of that was, well, if you do that, don't expect to get much money next time. Well, there is some truth to that, but there's also situations that I can imagine, and I suspect have occurred, where between the time the budget is approved to buy this, circumstances change dramatically, and they gotta buy something else, and they use the money for one thing for that rather than what's in the budget. That's our business. Now, to say that it's not something you should consult the city about politically would be, I mean, you'd have to do that. And you'd like them to agree, but if they don't, they don't. You know, and audit bills, claims, and department expenses before they are paid by the municipal treasurer. And I know that happens all the time. Bills are paid in order to make the 30-day deadline of the whatever, and we haven't approved it.
Yeah, I know I don't go into Munis, which is our new system, until right after one of you visit and sign the bills. Then I go into Munis and I have to do an approval process of the bills, but I wait until that day you guys come in to sign those bills, and then I'll.
See, and I'd be willing on the other side, if I were an attorney on the other side, to make the argument that the signature of a commission member is not approval by the commission.
And see, we had requested months ago a memo of understanding on this one. We haven't received it.
Well, one of the things lawyers learn early is not to write it down if they don't have to. That locks them in, and no lawyer likes to be locked in. I don't think it's, you know, I don't think it's unreasonable to say to the city, based on what we understand, we're not meeting the statutory requirement, and it's our requirement. It's on the commission, not on the city. So if you're not doing what the statute requires, we have to do something about that. And I know for the finance people, that drives them crazy. It just makes no sense in terms of the way they do their stuff. But the statute says they can't pay a bill until we approve it. Anyway, it seems to me if you want to know the mission of the group, it's in there, and I'll shut up.
Well, and that could very easily be addressed, and mission statements aren't made to be a 3-page document. They're made to be short and sweet. What are you here for? How are you going to accomplish it? And the bottom line on this one says fulfilling other legal responsibilities of the commission. And then by adding as prescribed by the Wisconsin state statutes.
6213.
Yeah, would suffice to cover all the bases that you just,
Yeah.
although there are conflicts, I'll agree there's conflicts, but I don't know, I don't have a solution for how to go about, not the trickery, but actually, we're overdoing it. One commissioner reviews the bills, it's immediately sent out and approved or received by the other commissioners. Then we approve them at a meeting. So whether it's before or after the checks are written, and I've got a feeling from having been in City Hall, the checks aren't written until they're approved on the city side by the finance department and by the mayor, and then the city council as a whole approves the bills, and the finance committee signs off. All members of the finance committee sign off on it. But
I'd be willing to bet you the finance department is paying bills before all those approvals are completed.
I was just questioned on that recently, Andy, if they could, and I said, no, you need to wait until I send you that list that's signed off by the commission. So as far as I'm aware, they are not.
We've
As I
added,
said, that is,
we've added that extra step where
right.
immediately after one of us signs the bills, reviews the bills and assigns for them,
Well,
that it's
so
sent
like
out
I
to
say,
everybody.
if I were the opposing attorney, I'd say, no, no, no. This says that the commission approves. Just because one commissioner approves isn't the commission approving.
But we're giving the consent through,
And I would say,
concurrence.
you can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we started emailing them too, so that you could give your approval that
And that's in
way.
black and white, and then we officially sign off on them at the next available meeting. We have to meet every time the bills come up.
I guess if our policy is that as we take our turns, we're empowered to do this on the escalation, and it's sent through the email, and people have a chance to say, I don't like that, stop it now.
Yeah.
Technically, you could look at the what's scanned over, you know, and say, nope, stop the presses, we can't do that, in theory, you know?
Right, that's the opportunity to dispute.
And it's not gonna be the whole set of bills, it's gonna be one particular item. If you wanna pull it at that time, that we have that ability to do that and review it openly and at a meeting. But
Well, like I say, I think an individual does not have the authority, a single member of a committee does not have the authority to represent the whole of the committee when the statute says the committee approves.
And if someone along the line is assuming, okay, we have 5-member commission, 4 members have said, okay, but we aren't okaying those in terms of a formal meeting. But an individual, so if we had 4 out of 5 commissioners saying, yeah, the bill's okay, we aren't meeting in a formal meeting.
But the newest policy has been implemented like in the last year at the most to accommodate their billing process or the payment process that the city has in place.
Mike, it's the law, it's the
Wow.
statute.
We're trying to, but you have to accommodate that somehow
Well,
without physically signing the bill.
yeah, by abrogating the law.
Well, then we'd have
And
to
we don't
have,
have the right to do that.
well, instead of each commissioner signing off on the bills, then we'd have to have a meeting every time.
Yeah,
Three separate meetings for the police department last month, just to sign, all 5 commissioners have to be present to sign the bills. So practicality and reality are 2 different things.
there are probably places that do it that way, and the finance departments have to accommodate what the law says.
Okay, that's an item for future discussion.
Yeah. I'm not saying we need to go back and make the change, but I am saying there are things in the law that we don't respond to, we haven't talked through, we haven't thought through, we haven't decided, we haven't discussed it with the city. We don't have attorneys' opinions on some of this stuff. I think all of this has been left to float.
Okay. Okay,
So in other words, at this point, we don't have a mission statement.
well, we've got the existing one, but we'll have to provide more input or further discussion to fine tune it if we want to. The ones that, the couple things that I recommended, at least at bottom line, fulfilling with other legal responsibilities, if we had it as prescribed by the Wisconsin State statute, would cover a lot of what we just talked about in the last 10 minutes. Whether we have to meet those, how we go about meeting those is another subject besides this statement itself.
Well, to borrow from a frequently seen TV commercial for a diesel repair firm, we've got the dyno to fine tune it.
Yeah.
Fine tune your engine, I think this is gonna go on the dyno.
Yeah.
I think I think there's a long history of an attempt on the part of good Midwestern folk to accommodate each other. And as a consequence, we've lost sight of some of the very specific things that are in the statute that are our responsibility. And I look forward to this opportunity as coming back to those things and doing them the way we're supposed to. Does that make sense?
Would it be harmful or helpful to have the city attorney weigh in on some of this stuff? You know, because let's just say somebody objects from the public in the way that things have been done business-wise by the commission. I think that this would maybe help to alleviate that, putting it ahead of that potential.
Well, by the time we're done with this meeting, I'll have several notes and I'll take it on myself to contact the city attorney and see what kind of input he's willing to provide for us.
I would recommend that everyone remember and understand, I think, a lot of the city attorney. I do, having worked with attorneys in various. He is the city attorney. He's not the commission's attorney. So I would ask him, I said, that'd be the first place I'd go. But I'd have it in the back of my mind that his answer is going to reflect what he thinks is in the best interest of the city. And the city's best interests are not necessarily our best interests.
I kind of somewhat agree, but yet at the same time, I think as a whole, he's looking out for the same entity that we're all looking out for, and that's.
Ask him, he'll tell you exactly what I just said, because he and I have talked through.
Oh, no, I know what you're saying.
And I've got a lot of respect for him too, but I can see where he would provide that information to us
Semi-neutral?
that I respect. There isn't anything he's ever done that I have no reason to respect his opinion or have not approached him for an opinion, because I know that you're gonna get a straight answer. I don't think he's got the city as a whole, and that's his personality. That's not true in every city attorney we've ever had.
Oh, it's not true in every attorney.
So I will, I'll take this group of notes and stuff after today and hit them up on it and see.
The other thing, and Bill, I expected you to have a lot more to say about all the stuff that you have so far.
I was just waiting until you were done.
I'll never be done with it. This is not the form of a mission statement, and it needs to be rewritten.
Yeah.
And Bill, you go ahead, and then I'll.
Okay. Well, being that said, why don't to make it a number one objective is to have everybody provide me with a mission statement that they feel would work or would suffice, and then we'll put it all together at a future meeting and we'll discuss it. But I would need input from each of the 5 commissioners to do that. I've got mine, and we'll share them with each other, and we'll try to come up with something that we all agree on as far as the mission statement goes.
You know, this is very much like a faculty meeting, where we argue over words.
I'm not educated to be an educational person, so I don't know.
Well, why do you sell yourself short like that?
Because I'm not educated. I'm common sense. So
I was gonna say, you know more about government operations and you've forgotten more than most people will ever know. Anyway.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Knowing that we're gonna put together some kind of concept for a mission statement, I'll just add, not 2 cents worth, say a penny's worth on this. The commission, as we are constituted, has, as Andy has noted, clearly defined statutory responsibilities. If the commission has not been, is not currently fulfilling those responsibilities, we then must start doing that. And in the course of doing that, whether it is done bluntly or whether it is done subtly, there are people on the common council that need to know they don't run police and fire departments, and they don't tell us how to spend our money, the money that they allot to us. You know, and I brought up the point, Andy's brought it up before about the bills. Somehow we gotta work that thing out. But with these other items, we do have to take a stronger stand. And if we have to revise the way that we're operating with the chiefs, we have to revise that as well. The critical thing we have to look at is this is gonna take time. We just can't revise a mission statement. This is gonna take a real long time to get all of this operating and moving forward smoothly.
Well, and keep in mind too, that the whole idea of this, and the reason we brought it up again was to assist in bringing along future commissions and commissioners and commissions, with a clear understanding of what the duties and responsibilities really are. And that, you know, this is gonna be a tool that probably be tweaked again in the future as personalities change, but, you know, I'm sure it would have been more helpful to come in and be able to sit down with new people. And it will be a useful tool in the future to bring them online and to give them a better understanding what our responsibilities and what we do besides just meeting once a month, so. It'll take time to come up with something that we all agree on, I'm sure. But it'd be helpful, again, like I said, to provide that stuff to me so we can start to filter through it
A week, 10 days, 2 days?
for the next meeting,
Okay.
please.
I'd just like to skip ahead
Yeah,
2 pages.
the mission statement we'll put on hold. The next one is really an orientation outline. It's things that for any particular commissioner to do. And it's all inclusive.
Which one are you on?
The one, presentation,
This was, the orientation is the next one.
orientation outline.
I just suggest that we all go through that,
Yep,
you know, and add and
we
delete.
could.
Okay.
And I would just make one comment, this is on page 14B. 1D, review history of departments. It might be worthwhile if over a period of months, perhaps a year or more, that we actually put together a definitive history of both departments.
Aren't there documents and resources on their websites on occasion, or that have been there in the past, or what I mean?
There's a complete history of the Marshfield Fire Department on their website, you know, because I wrote it. So, but it's not complete, it's a complete history of the full-time fire department since 1948. So,
Well,
for history's sake.
yeah, well, you know, being a traditionalist, hard copy is always the best copy. This is something that should be in book form.
Yeah.
And keep adding and subtracting. I know when Greg Cleveland left and went down to La Crosse, the La Crosse Fire Department maintained a complete history. And he went through that thing page by page. Now, the La Crosse Fire Department's very tradition oriented. Perhaps one of the more traditional oriented in the state. And that helped him to understand what was going on down there. Going over to the next page, one of the items that caught my mind.
Excuse me, what is the next page?
Oh, I'm sorry, 14C. It's orientation outline, page 2.
Yeah, because the numbers we have are different than
Yeah,
yours.
we've got threes.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at the original copy that was
Oh,
distributed.
got it.
Okay,
Yeah,
and, you know, I'm gonna go through, I'll come back.
What's at the top of the page?
It says orientation outline, page 2.
3C.
Look at grade
All
one.
right,
Optional items, attend ETN series on police and fire commissions. I don't believe the educational telephone network operates anymore.
Yeah, I didn't know what that even meant.
Last time I used ETN was 1990, 1991. I think it phased out shortly thereafter. But an immediate thing that I would like to put into effect immediately, and I think we had this someplace in one of our policies. This is on duties of the president, and if you go down just below halfway, to be immediately informed of any severe injury or death caused by a fire. I'd like to see that changed to be immediately informed of any severe injury or death occurring in the line of duty, so including health departments in there.
I noticed those, and that certainly has not been the practice. Because if I remember correctly, it includes any serious felony and
Right.
and so on. That has not at all been the practice that we've been informed of serious fires or serious crimes. I hear things from friends more than I do from the police department about an arrest or whatever, an accident. I'd want to think about how much of that we want them to be responsible for informing us, but we can talk about that.
One question on that, I guess I would ask what is serious? I mean, we have.
I know. There's another thing that I checked with, and I know that this is correct. If we ask, we can look at your files.
I wouldn't imagine why you wouldn't be able to.
Your arrest files and all that stuff. I can't imagine there'd ever be a reason why a commissioner would want to do that. It's like signing that stupid book when we went into the police station. I did it once and I never did it again. I refused. Why should I have to sign into a facility that's more mine than yours?
It's because of the programs that we have in there that are protected. State,
From whom?
from anyone who doesn't have the training and everything from the state, from what I understand.
From anyone who is your superior?
They have to do it.
Yeah, it's state requirements. I think state patrol comes in. I mean, we do it.
They aren't used to having a police and fire commission with optional powers.
They could pull the entirety of the CIB, which is Crime Information Bureau, all the data records, all the stuff that's on the computer that's protected. It's that way nationwide.
Yeah, and it's no different than like
Nobody
HIPAA
has a
in the EMS service. I'm not gonna go digging in patient records because I have no business being there.
It's
You know,
like,
and that's,
If-
you know,
Now, I'm telling you, because I've checked with the city attorney about this. If we had reason, there is no file in the police department that we couldn't look at.
in theory, yeah, but at the same time,
Not just in
if-
theory. There
At the
was
same time, though, if commissioners were going to do that, if I was him, I'd be talking to him going, what are you guys just poking around where they don't
Steve,
belong?
I asked the attorney because we had reason to think we might have to do that.
I get that, yeah.
And we were told if we had reason, any file in the police department is open to the commission. And the fire department. And I think you all know why we thought we might have to do something like that.
Except that there, no, okay. One exception would be that there is one person responsible for those records. And it's up to that individual to let anybody or not let anybody see any records. Same holds true with the city. And in fact, I came up against that when I was mayor, that the city administrator is a keeper of the records of the city. And no matter how hard I tried or how many city attorneys or former city attorneys I had on my side to see some exit interviews for members of the fire department, I was not given the privilege of seeing those exit
Take him
interviews.
to court.
No, I didn't push it.
I
don't have-
I don't expect those things to happen.
But I respected the fact that the person in charge of those records was not gonna let me see them. I
Police
didn't agree
department
with it,
records
but,
are the responsibility of the chief,
yeah.
not the city administrator. It's true. City
Well, no, I'm not
administrator.
talking about the
Yeah.
police department, I'm talking about the city as a whole.
Yeah, well,
And the city conducts the exit interviews,
mhm.
or used to, the chief could do his own, but I was more interested in ones, because I was asked by the people who provided those exit interviews or participated in those to see their exit interview.
What I know is that I asked if the commission felt the need, could we look at police records, not just personnel records, but the, I don't know, interview records and that sort of thing. Because we weren't sure how far things were gonna go.
The orientation outline, we made a couple different changes and references to it. That'd be another thing, again, if you could, to go through that list and provide me with any possible changes or exceptions you'd like to make to the list or that we have on file at this point.
I do have a question about the name, because I'm looking at the orientation outline, the previous page, and page 3D, talking about the job duties. I'm seeing two different names for our training. One says Marshfield Fire and Police, and one says Marshfield Police and Fire.
Yeah, you brought that up with me, and I
I did, yes, and then the statute says Police and Fire Commission. And the city website says Fire and Police Commission. What are we? We kind of should be consistent and clear on our name, you know?
well, it's a, you know,
It depends on who typed it the last time.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just saying, that we should be consistent with what the statute says, what the statute says.
I think we just have to be insistent on that it's in fact the police and fire commission, PFC, that we refer to all the time. And I think the city statutes, like you said, points that out, their city charter that
It
includes
says,
the police and fire commission. So, I could be mistaken, but that's my understanding of it. Police and fire. Some, you know, you get some that say fire and police, I suppose that'd be the fire chief.
I think when we did it, it was Police and Fire Commission because everything was PFC before.
right,
And I was surprised it got switched to, I didn't know why, but it's,
I always refer to it as Police and Fire Commission, but I mean, whatever.
yeah. But it's typed up the other way, so
And Pete refers to it as a fire and police commission. I don't get it.
I mean, he's incorrect.
Well, and honestly,
I think, actually, I think Lori went back on the history of this a little bit, and it has been the Fire and Police Commission back in the day. That's when it started out at some point. You guys have been wrong a long time.
I mean, honestly, I mean, there's,
not sure.
I will refer to a footnote. Although the relevant statutes contain references to police and fire commissions and often refer to the body as the Board of Police and Fire Commissioners, or board, this chapter of the handbook refers to the body as a PFC or commission to avoid possible confusion with village boards.
Commissioner Pinker, was that police first, or?
I believe that was referring to a law enforcement agency. The reference to PFC or commission generally is intended to include bodies that deal only with a single department. For example, police commissions or fire commissions or combined protective service commissions. When a reference is meant to specifically apply to a particular type of commission, the reference will be to a police commission or fire commission. So since we're both, it would be the commission or the police and fire commission. Though I happen to like board of commissions, it sounds really cool.
The best I can do is I have some letterheads from back in the early 50s to, I'll try to see what they called themselves back then.
Yeah.
From some letter communications with the police and fire commission, with the city, et cetera. So I'll take a look at those for history's sake.
Okay, Mike, can I take a step back?
Yes, sir.
I concur with Jody, as far as serious injury. Commissioner Pinker brought up as far as, we want to be open in our line of communication, however, we don't want to flood you with, information that you don't need. So I'd like a definition of what a serious line of duty injury is that somebody that has to go to the ER, or whatever that definition is, just please share that with us. We can be,
A lot of that, in my mind, a lot of that can be covered within a particular incident, being a serious incident, being a large fire or a high-speed chase, or
sure,
where personnel are involved, and if there are any injuries or anything involved. Just an overall
as far as
Is there injuries,
Supposed to be informed.
no injuries to our personnel, injuries to our citizens, or?
and likewise, I mean, for training, we occasionally will have an injury during a training session or whatever. Do you want that information?
And let me tell you what my standard is. I hate going to coffee, which I don't do very often anymore. Going to coffee and having someone say, boy, what happened with the police department last night? Any idea?
The only thing,
Well, there was a high-speed chase and a car rolled and a police cruiser was wrecked and,
we also, but, you know, and I understand it because I have the same issue sometimes. What happened at this intersection, I don't know. I wasn't working last night, but, you know, sometimes people see a lot of fire, the last one was a lot of fire trucks and police cars going to a particular apartment building, and it was a false alarm. You know, and so I mean, I don't want to call you guys every time there's a false alarm either, so.
no, and I don't want you to, but I think you gotta use some judgment about if it's a serious issue and you've got a shootout at the auto parts store, or you've got, you know, a kid hit by a car who bounced 40 feet or something. You know, when that sort of thing happens, or when there is something that the public would not understand. You know, it gets out that the cops did something or the fire department did something and its blame is being made and so on. So the sooner we can counteract that, the
See,
better.
and this now raises the issue of public information and public information officer. We have a city communications director, but emergency services does not have a public information officer.
That's right, why don't you identify?
You know, as an example, Marathon County Sheriff's Office, if they have a major incident, the county's public information, public engagement officer is the one who takes charge of providing all the information. We don't have anybody to do that.
No.
And I've mentioned this to
That's a specific skill set too, in a lot of ways.
Right.
If we have the wrong person in there or appoint somebody to it, that could be detrimental to either for both of our departments.
Well, and I've always looked at being the spokesman for the department was the one I would respect the most or would be most qualified for reporting on a major incident would be the chief himself or a designee. Because I think they're, first of all, not trained in it, but they know what information is they're able to release, won't compromise any future doings in the department, especially in the police department, the legal side of what information can be released or in both departments, you know, HIPAA kicks in where you could say a 38-year-old man, but you don't get specific about it. I would look in our departments, other than having a separate information person, that could very well be established by the chiefs of the departments to have one person be the spokesman. But otherwise, I look forward to the chiefs to be the.
I've noticed on Channel 9 especially, they seldom talk to the chief.
Yeah.
It's deputy chief.
That's me.
I think that I agree with you. I think that especially for a major incident, the chiefs should be the ones that are relating the information. Where a PIO comes in though is that they help to project the best image for the department too. And there's tricks of the trade there that we're not aware of.
And for relating to the deputy chiefs, I think a lot of times, the reason they talk to them is that's their responsibility is being shift commander for the day. They're gonna be first in on that fire, and they've had command of that fire or incident since the beginning. So a lot of times, instead of trying to play the telephone game and relay information back and forth,
The same with our
we've had the
lieutenants.
deputy chief.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Or the chief's on vacation, so the deputy chief has to do it.
That sounds good.
Well,
It's a lucky chief.
we probably have a year's worth of things to do. But you know, I go back to my suggestion that we take these items and add and delete as we see fit. Mike, how would you like that returned to you?
Email works fine for me on the city website and, or otherwise. And, yeah, as you see fit to make any possible changes. And I'll do the same. I've got some changes that I'd recommend to, not so much duty to the president, because I see a lot of that as what I always understood to be the responsibilities of. But some of the other ones, the vice president and the secretary and the commissioners at large, some of those are repetitive and would be expected of any commissioner. But they wouldn't necessarily have to be listed again as, say, under vice president or secretary, except for, say, a secretary, provides written notes of meetings, signs off on the minute, and coordinates things with the president. But the vice president one, there's some things in there when it comes to, and I'll provide all these possible changes to everybody else. The vice president in particular evaluates job performance of fire chief and police chief. What it comes down to is that's an annual thing, performance review. And typically it's been done by the president. 1 year that I was president a couple years ago, I solicited input from all 4 of the other commissioners, and it ended up being a real a disaster because of personalities at the time. And I regret that I got everybody involved with it. The president can receive input all throughout the year on the 2 chiefs of the department that we're responsible for. But I think when it boils down to is if you have all 5 people, input is very valuable in providing a performance evaluation. So like I said, there was a period of time where there were some personality problems, and it really entered into it, and then it caused undue grief to everybody involved, and I don't care to repeat that process. We can meet with the chiefs anytime they want. We can provide input to them. We can solicit information from them. We can, on a one-to-one basis. But when it comes to the annual performance review, I think it should be one individual. That they know that they're answering to one individual, and representing the commission as a whole. So I just know from experience I don't want to repeat what happened a couple of years ago. It set something in the world spin, and it wasn't good for anybody involved. So.
I would make the point, and again, I have checked this. We don't have to follow the city's process for evaluations.
We don't.
We don't have to use the city's HR office. The city's been kind enough to provide help from your office as we've developed over the years, but we don't have to. we're far more independent than the city is used to thinking of us, you know? And evaluations, the city has a process. They've used it for a while. At least the last HR director wanted to continue with it. I didn't like it at all.
I tried to rewrite it myself at one time by surveying other departments on what they do. The self-evaluation thing I don't agree with. There's a lot of different things that it's part of that process that that could be reconsidered. And as far as history's sake, the commission has evolved so much in regards to the HR department, where there was a time, at least in 82 and 83, where we didn't have a human resource person in the city. So if a person wanted an application, they had to get the application from a commissioner. Then they had to return it to a commissioner. And then I remember we'd meet in a room with a box in the middle of a table full of applications, and we would review those as a commission to weed out ones that didn't meet our basic qualifications, and they weren't that complicated at the time. You 3 names as references, and whatever. Education wasn't required so much at the time. It was just coming in to be something to have an associate degree. He stood out. But then I got to where we did the interviews, or we did, the police department did the testing. The commission had interviews with each individual, and a list was established that the chief could pick from. And that's evolved to where we got an HR person in the city. No offense to anybody, but
HR people are used to being offended.
New people.
but them persons, but we got to be where they would sit in on the interviews. And I, for one, took it as offensive because I thought it was our responsibility. But then I was educated in the fact that there are things that we do we're not doing correctly that legally we could get in trouble for, asking all the same questions, non-discrimination, things like that all enter into that we don't have an education for. We're 5 people at large from the city. To where it evolved the next year, 2 or 3, and then a new HR person came in and said, well, these are the questions you can ask. Well, we ask our own questions. You don't need to give us a list of questions. And then it evolved into, these are the questions I'm going to ask the next year that I'm going to ask, and you guys can just all sit and take notes. Well, then a couple of us reared back and said, that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's not the way we've always done it. Pretty soon the city's taking all of its advertising the position, the city's taking the applications, the city's sifting through the information to where it is today, where we are utilizing that department for the most part for legal sake, I think, than anything. And then it is, we don't have the ability we have the resources to advertise and to otherwise facilitate an application process. Now we've got it actually to a point where there's a quorum or a pool of candidates, possible candidates that both the chiefs are aware of, that they draw from and bring in and interview. And we are taking part in the interview process more recently, and especially in the last 4 or 5 years, to where a commissioner is invited to be on the interview board, which is I'm excited about because.
And according to the law, we should approve as a commission that law.
But that's things that we can tweak. Some good points that are coming out of the discussion. And it's been long overdue. But I think more good stuff is going to come out of this, the discussion we've had today already. So.
You know, coming out of higher ed, I have what I think is a perfect example of this. You're looking for a new president at the university, and you've got a list of questions that they all have to be asked. That's the rule now. They all have to be asked the same questions. You got 4 candidates. 4 of them are higher ed people. They're either presidents at a smaller institutions or VPAs at a bigger, whatever. but you've got one that has no higher ed experience and is an attorney. Asking that person the same questions makes no sense at all. And boy, the attorneys had a great time figuring out how we were going to deal with that. And the attorney was selected as president. He didn't have the experience that the others did, but he had other experience that we thought was important too. So, you know, it's those kinds of issues with recruiting that can drive people like me nuts.
But there, you know, the list is one thing, so that you have a set list of the questions to ask in an interview. I like the ones that more recently I've been involved with at least, and others, I invite everybody else to take the opportunity that comes up to be in part of these interview process for hiring or promotion. You've got that list as a guideline, but it doesn't mean that you can't stray from it. I was on a commission where one of the commissioners could sense that the candidate was really nervous, aside from the fact that he still had the tags on his new sport coat for pennies, and the guy was just shook. He was nervous, and Doc Haywood was his commissioner's name. And just out of the blue, he just said, "I don't understand why you wore that tie with that sport coat." And the candidate just sat there and kind of went. He got on a whole different train of thought. He wasn't worried about being nervous anymore when this was all done. And the rest of us are giggling about it, like, "Doc, geez, you know." But it changed it. It wasn't asked the same question of each candidate. But I don't think we're going to get into discrimination suit against it for doing it. But
Mike, I've been on interview panels where you had a list of questions and you could not ask anything other than those. Those are the ones that drive me nuts.
I'm on the Wood County Commission, and we have a list of maybe 20, or we used to. We've changed to where we're following the process that both departments do. So we had a list of 20 or 30 questions, and we could ask pretty much all the same ones, but we didn't. If it didn't fit, we didn't ask that one particular question because it didn't pertain to that situation. So it was flexible in that respect. But again, with the idea that we're in a suing society, that's discrimination suit, we act accordingly. So, okay. Is there any other input anybody else might have? I didn't go on.
I'll make one last comment. This work should have been done years ago. And I was chair of this group for a long time, and I didn't do anything with it. And I'll use as my rationale for not doing anything. There were other demanding issues in front of the commission at that time that in my head took priority over this stuff. But this is important. It is really important. We've worked without the kind of definitions we need for years and years, and we've not been caught. But we could have been caught any day, and we can't afford that any longer.
So we'll continue this discussion at a future point, and like I said, please provide me with any changes you'd like to make to the documents that you have in front of you. And we'll take into consideration the discussion we had today with the fine notes that are being taken.
Too many.
Oh,
We have downer, it's gonna be really
This
long.
would be useful. So if there's no other discussion or no objections, this meeting is adjourned. I appreciate it.